world is in election season. From the United States to Ghana, there are elections being conducted everywhere, and many are of special importance this year. The United States isn't the only country that the world is nervously watching. Political experts have been keeping their eyes on one of Africa's most peaceful countries, Tanzania. Some have coined the nation as Africa's island of peace because of Tanzania's long history of peaceful government and transition on a continent that was full of civil wars and military takeovers. The country freed itself from British rule in 1961 and was set up as a socialist one-party state by founding father Julius Nyerere. The country was different from other socialist governments because of its allowance of freedom of speech and easy transition to multi-party democracy in 1992. Since its founding, the nation has had a long history of tolerance, and countries throughout Africa have relied on Tanzania to be a mediator of peace. Recently, this has started to change, and many fear the country could be drifting towards an authoritarian government, especially with the re-election of Tanzania's populist president. The backsliding towards authoritarian government started with the election of a man named John Magufuli in 2015. His party, Chama cha Mapinduzi, has been in power since the founding of Tanzania, but due to corruption and inefficient government, the country was greatly disillusioned with the party. Magufuli was a technocrat for multiple governments and was chosen by party officials because he was relatively unknown, and they hoped he could rebrand the party's image. He was seen as an outsider and used that perception of himself to pursue a populist agenda of anti-corruption and better government. A populist is a politician who appeals to ordinary people that feel that they are being disregarded by political elites. Magufuli's populist approach appealed to disgruntled voters, and he managed to distance himself from the negative view of his party, which ultimately won him the presidency. No one was prepared for what Magufuli would be like once in power. He made good on some of his promises by curbing unnecessary government spending and pursuing corrupt officials. Magufuli boasts that the country has improved and reached lower middle income status, which has improved the lives of most Tanzanians. Despite these good things, Magufuli has put the country's democracy at risk. Since his election in 2015, he's shown authoritarian tendencies that have only increased. Despite a small decline in the last election, his party still has a firm majority in parliament, so there's little to stop whatever repressive laws Magufuli wants, because they fear to resist and become the next targets of his anti-corruption policy. The government has passed laws like the 2015 Statistics Act, which criminalizes statistics that are published without government approval. This law has been condemned by many global institutions like the World Bank because it undermines the reliability and spread of factual information. Other laws have also granted the government more authoritarian powers, like being able to suspend advocacy organizations and political parties. Journalists that don't fit the government's narrative have been arrested or mysteriously disappeared, and protesters have been banned from organizing. Opposition politicians have reported assassination attempts and violence to scare them into submission. Magufuli's policies have been a stark divergence from previous presidents. Some hope that the 2020 presidential election would give the opposition a chance to unseat him because his repressive policies have been incredibly unpopular. Many doubted the possibility of a fair election though. Opposition politicians have been banned from campaigning and organizing rallies, which are key parts of getting voters. Magufuli also has the ability to appoint the head of the National Election Commission, which has put it firmly under his control. This has led to opposition parties being disqualified from participating in the election, especially candidates from the main opposition party, Chadema. Electoral observers are also essential to ensuring votes are fair. They usually come from opposition parties or global groups like the European Union. But this time, electoral observers from both groups have been denied from polling stations, and this has led many to assume Magufuli is prepared to steal the election. The votes took place in late October, and Magufuli was declared winner with 84% of the vote, which many doubt to be true, especially considering how the 2015 election was much tighter. Opposition groups cannot contest the elections in court either. Even if they could, many judges have been appointed by Magufuli, and political observers fear that they would favor the president in any court case. Resistance in Tanzania has been heavily suppressed. Tanzanians have always felt a pride in their peaceful democracy, but Magufuli has prevented any form of uprising. The ban of organized protests have essentially prevented popular resistance in the country. Because of this, many have called on the elders of Magufuli's party to stand up to him. Historically, the elders of the party have been made up of former presidents and important party officials in Tanzania and Zanzibar. The elders are recognized within the party's constitution as an independent group that acts as a check on the central committee in the party. Whenever the elders speak as a unified body, their word is respected and holds a lot of weight. In the past, their intervention has prevented previous presidents from abusing their power. The power of the elders has weakened over time though, and they now no longer have direct influence on the party or the president because they cannot even convene without the president president's permission. This has left little to combat Magufuli's authoritarianism. International observers have hoped that regional powers like South Africa or intergovernmental groups like the African Union or Southern African Development Community will step up and put pressure on the country to stop its backsliding into dictatorship. There's been little of this though, because countries in Southern Africa are dealing with their own internal issues. Overall, President Magufuli could bring an end to democracy in Tanzania. Many worry that he will try and change the constitution to give himself a third term, which is a danger to democracy within the country. While he has done good in Tanzania, it shouldn't be at the cost of human rights and democratic governance. To prevent the death of Tanzanian democracy, the international community and Tanzanians within the country must work to support Tanzania's opposition and put pressure on the government. If this doesn't happen, then Africa's island of peace might succumb to the same ills that the nation has fought so very hard to prevent.